Hey, Forrest here. Nothing like getting paid. And with ICCU's mobile app, I can deposit checks or accept Zelle payments so the money hits my account fast. I just wish there was an app for mowing the rest of these lawns.
We don't need gimmicks like giant checks and mascots to promote this year's football contest because we're giving away even more money than we did last year.
$16 million in guaranteed prizes to be exact. There's 2 ways to win and no rake.
Players in Circa Millions make 5 picks against the spread each week with quarterly and full season payouts.
Circa Survivor entries select one team each week with no point spread. Last the longest to win it all. Visit circasports.com for details.
When I want Boise State to win, I trust Coach Rice to lead the Broncos to victory.
And when I want the best painting and garage floor coating, I trust rowpaint.com to get that job done right.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Today's broadcast is coming from the Cutwater Spirits Canned Cocktail Studios. Check out one of their more than 30 flavors of pre-mixed premium cocktails at your local gas station or grocery store. Cutwater Canned Cocktails is perfect for your next game day tailgate party. Now, here's 4-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
What's up, Bronco Nation? Welcome back to the Riley and Ridge Show. I know we've been away for a while, but we're fired up to be back. College football is starting back up, so we're excited to start covering it. I'm Riley Smith, former Boise State tight end, here with legendary former football coach Kent Riddle. And we're here, and we're just excited to get it going. I mean, the guys are in full effect. They had a great summer, and then with the first day of fall camp going, it's full swing
Absolutely.
now.
A legendary in my own mind. And
mine too.
Yeah. Yeah, you had a chance to brainwash it. So yeah, no, it's awesome to be back. It's awesome to have college football. I mean, we're, probably I am figured out the exact number of days, but I'm guessing we're like 6 Saturdays away since the Broncos are on the road for 2 weeks from being right up here after the game, doing a little post-game show here, talking about a Bronco victory. Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting.
And it's a change of scenery too. We're at the James right next to the stadium. Beautiful view. Yep. Get to see everything.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. So
it's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited to be here doing it live. We'll try and do maybe a few more live in person as we go instead of doing it on the internet. Some of those are going to be probably necessary, but yeah, it's exciting to get together and talk about the Broncos, and a lot of buzz around town. Everybody's very excited, and for good reason, Yeah, and the guys out there on the field today. So what we kind of thought we'd talk about a little bit tonight was just kind of what the summer might have looked like up to this point, and what the fall camp schedule looks like for players and coaches, and see what everybody kind of thinks of that. Very fortunate to have the Bearcat coming out, owner of the James. We'll get him in the background there, but him and Darren. So great Bronco supporters, and Darren a great Bronco. So yeah, please put some questions in the chat, as we talk about that. But, I think the last time we talked was maybe right at the end of spring ball. Yeah. So just wanted to kind of like what's been going on since then from a player standpoint, and then I can add in from a little bit of a coach's standpoint.
Yeah. I think it's cool because right after spring ball, you get a little bit of a break. So you go through all your finals for that semester and your grind mode. And then you get to go and you get to hang out with the boys and go see your family. And that was kind of the perfect reset before you go into summer ball. And
so we're talking month of May, basically, right?
Month of May. So right after spring, and you get the whole month of May off, get to go see your families. And a lot of the times you do some boys trips. And get the boys to kind of go to where you live and show them around, and it just continues to build that brotherhood. And you get to kind of separate yourself from football and then just enjoy your friends and family.
Absolutely. In the month of May for coaches, works out well because they're generally on the road out recruiting.
Yeah.
Kind of looking at the well, especially now, they're looking at class of 2025 guys in this case, and then probably coming back on the weekends and hosting visits from transfers or unofficial visits from 2025 guys. And now the way the rules are, official visits from 2025 guys. Crazy. So I think that's one of those things that, as coaches, may used to be a little bit more downtime.
Yeah.
You could, many times I would have my wife come join me for a weekend on the road recruiting or something. Now you got to be back here because you have people on campus. But, I think that's a big deal is to get that break because you hit Memorial Day, you get the team meeting, right?
Yep, right back at it.
And then you're rolling on Tuesday morning at whatever time and it's on, right?
It's on. And that's crazy because it kind of hits you and you're like, this is the moment that it goes right into the season. And from there on out, they hit the ground running, and the coaches do a great job, and especially the strength coaches of bringing the energy. And like we always talk about consistency over like motivation. And that first day you go in, you're all fired up and pumped up, but everybody's like that on the first day.
And when you're talking about the day, I mean, it's not like, hey, we show up and lift for an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, tell everybody what a day in the summer looks like.
For sure. Yeah. So you have different lift times per your position group, whether you're the skill guys
and then you just go home,
big
right?
boys. Yeah, I wish, right?
Yeah.
But you go in and we always talk about doing extra is what wins championships. So the things that are mandatory aren't necessarily as much as people would think, but it's the lift and the run and then occasional meetings. And then there's player run practices where they go out and they compete without the coaches on the field. Now the rules are a little different to where they're allowed to be out there for individual drills and stuff like that. So
and
that's
walkthroughs,
changed.
right?
Walkthroughs as well. So there's a lot of football and you're on the field and it's right after you do the lift, you do the run, and then it's right in the individual
and the coaches
drills.
are generally at the run.
They are, and they're running
until the 1st of July, basically.
For sure. Yeah. And so
the coaches, I mean, just for everybody's knowledge, like you're talking about an hour and a half lift, an hour run, an hour walkthrough, individual, an hour player run practice, ish, maybe a little bit more,
right?
And then rehab, like whatever. So, you're talking about rolling in the building for most guys somewhere between 6 and 7:30, probably, right?
Yeah.
And then being there till 1. Yeah, and that's
it's a long day,
summer
for sure. Yeah. And then you get to enjoy it with the boys, which is
the
nice.
rest of the summer, or in certain cases. I mean, we've had I think Boise State players have done an amazing job. I think guys like Dante Harrington that and put his suit on and went to work at the Capitol.
Oh yeah.
And he's just the guy that comes to mind, but there's been a million guys over the time take advantage of the rest of the day, and maybe it's from 1 to 6 or whatever, but doing internships, working jobs, like making the most of their time. But it's always hard to miss Dante because he was the only guy that left in his suit every day.
He still had the shower sweats and he was running out in a full suit, but he was killing it. That's why he's so successful now.
Question.
So
absolutely.
But it is crazy. Yeah, it's a full schedule, and the craziest part is how high the competition is. You think it's summer and you're just going in, clocking in the building, doing your runs, but
if you just clock in, you get left behind.
You get left behind real quick. And those PRPs are intense.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first stepped on campus, we did one-on-ones after everybody left the field, and it was like Avery Williams and Sean Modster, and they were running one-on-ones for another hour.
And there's typically maybe 1 or 2 days in the summer where the PRP kind of gets blown up and turns into flag football,
some Bronco ball,
see
if the defense can play offense.
Yeah, so trust me, I mean, the guys, like, everybody has a little bit of fun,
Right.
because it's necessary to keep the grind going.
For sure.
But, you're talking about that. So all the way up to the 4th of July with the coaches there. Then you kind of hit that 4th of July week and you get what?
Yeah. So 4th of July week is nice because it's kind of the middle point between summer and you get a couple days off, and a lot of people go to McCall. They go
I think
back
this
home.
week they took a whole week off, or
That's
this year.
nice.
So
yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah.
And so, you take a little break off, get to enjoy 4th of July. A lot of people go home, but a lot of people do trips together, and they get that kind of week to bring it back in, and so you don't get burnt out. And
McCall, I believe there was a beach trip to San Diego.
San Diego. There's a lot of trips.
Orange County.
Yeah, I mean, everyone loves it, and it's cool because for most of the time, I said this earlier, but the boys get together, like bring people home, and they just continue to build that bond, and it's so awesome. And then from there on, they keep it going, and it's part 2, and then that's kind of when it kicks in more football and meetings and starting to get that mindset for when fall camp comes.
And nowadays there's way more food provided, right?
Definitely.
But there's still like a lot of barbecues at night and stuff like that. And in general, kind of shutting it down. Sorry, we have to check we got Nathaniel over there saying hello from the patio. So.
What's
God
up?
bless him, because it's hot in that patio.
It is, no doubt.
But really bonding together, right?
Yeah,
I mean, might be 20 guys having dinner, grilling burgers or whatever.
Coaches,
not generally steaks, right?
Unless
at the coach's house,
the
right?
coach's house, so we're cooking cheap hot dogs. And,
but a really good time. And so then the coaches get a little time off, kind of from the 4th of July, really till about the end of July. And maybe it's the last week in June until like the last week in July. But there's always a few coaches around, and generally more than a few, because kind of if you're in town, you can't stay away.
Right. Always.
So you show up at workouts, and maybe you can get home by noon.
Right.
Hang with the kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's that's a time when players really kind of typically take ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're running it because the coaches aren't there all the time, and certainly not all the coaches.
Right.
But you kind of have an idea of individual drills you're working on. Certainly an idea of what the player run practice should look like. But go ahead and talk about that.
It's a big step for the guys that are kind of moving into the leadership roles.
And all the freshmen are here at that point too, right?
All the freshmen are there, and they're looking at the leaders, and they're trying to figure out what they're doing, because it is chaotic. They're drinking out of a fire hose, and
those guys have no idea what they're in for, right?
And they're looking at the playbook and just not understanding anything. And so that's kind of the moment where they can make mistakes, and then the leaders can go out and show them kind of what they need to do in those different situations. And but it is a big step in the growth for leaders, especially. It's no coaches around. How are you going to lead these guys and make sure that we have efficient and productive practices?
That's where the leaders are kind of made. And,
for sure.
And, I think that's one of the things, like, well, how come we don't have, captains in the spring and stuff like that? Well, because we don't know. I mean, different people step up, and it's sometimes it's the people you exactly think it would be. And sometimes it's like, wow.
Right.
And
no doubt.
Yeah. But, I think guys take ownership of that, and you certainly did. DJ, you mentioned Avery earlier.
For sure.
I mean, guys like that just step up and kind of run things.
It's crazy.
You wouldn't even know coaches aren't there,
right? You wouldn't. And that brings me into, we haven't even talked about decks yet.
Yeah,
decks are the staple of Boise State football, and I've noticed every Friday they're up at, depending the time, they try to beat the heat, but
I think they moved them back a little bit this year. So 7:30 instead of
when the sun's rising. But so they'll go up at the top stadium where you guys are sitting, and it'll be completely filled, and they'll run decks, and it'll go up by 2 every single week. And it's always +1, which is awesome. And that started a while back.
I heard a rumor it might have been +2 this year.
It was, and I got to be there for the 20th deck day. So we go out, and deck day is the last day where you run 20 decks, and a bunch of guys came out. We had Billy Bowens, we had DJ Schramm, Cade Beresford, Cortez, and so we all got to go out and watch the boys suffer. We wanted to bring some lawn chairs and some beers and just watch from the bottom.
Well, probably a good.
But we ended up going up.
Somebody might have swung on you.
Yeah, right. And it was funny because we were up there just watching them, and guys in the past like OJ ran them with us, and we as older guys we made a pack and we said, all right, we're not running them. We ran the last ones, and now we're gonna watch. But it was great because DJ Schramm was known for doing the tarps off halfway through, so it was probably a little bit of a placebo effect, but every time we hit the halfway point, DJ Schramm would walk up and take his shirt off, start swinging it and yell tarps off, and the rest of the team would follow. And that was kind of the second wind we needed to finish strong. So DJ,
there we go. We got Nathaniel came out on the patio.
Nathaniel. But that was kind of his staple. So it was cool that Coach D had him go out and do that too. Yeah. But they did run 2 extra. So it was impressive. So
yeah, and you know, for everybody that thinks like that's just, you know, it's whatever, it's 18 stairs or whatever. Oh, just give it a shot one time.
Yeah, it'll hurt
because it's not only like conditioning. You got to be explosive because those are
for sure.
Those are big steps. They're running the actual bleachers, not the stairs.
Definitely.
Guys like me can run the stairs for a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you gotta be able to explode off your legs to cover.
And
that.
it's a lot of mental too, because once you hit a certain point, it's like you feel like you can't go anymore. But we always talk about that governor on the car, the David Goggins governor. Like you have so much more to give, and your mind's trying to hold you back, and so that's where you hit your complete end point, and you still find a way to keep furthering it. So that's always cool, and I'm always impressed by the young guys because. The young guys,
right?
Yeah, they have no idea. And they always show up a couple weeks later than us. So we'll be on like 12 decks, and they're told that they only have to run 6, but that never happens.
Most of them keep going,
It's always the older guys are trying to push them to run those 12, and that's kind of where you see the guys who are going to mentally quit, or the guys that are going to push through and keep up. And even though they're barely walking up the last couple, the fact that they do it is where they gain a lot of respect.
Absolutely, no question. Kind of rite of passage, right?
It is, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. So then you get to kind of the last, after you run decks, you kind of got a week before fall camp starts, or maybe 10 days, whatever it is. And at that point, the coaches are back, and it becomes like OTAs, right? So like the NFL version of off season, not so much their camp. I mean, those guys roll. We got NFL football tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So shout out to Coach Strasser, great Bronco, that's already coaching tomorrow night. So
that's awesome. That's great. Football, we've been waiting for it.
Yeah,
came around fast.
Absolutely,
though.
No question.
Did.
No doubt. But so during the OTAs, they're kind of running through like the installs and trying to think. You know, it's really like walk through practice, basically, right?
Yep. And so that's when kind of the anxiety kicks in with having to know the plays, and they do a really good job of doing it throughout the summer.
Yeah.
To where you're learning the installs, and by the time OTA start, this is the second or third time you've actually ran those plays.
But maybe with a little bit more intensity, right?
For
Knowing
sure.
that Coach Cutter's right there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And then that's when it really kicks in and see who's been in the playbook. And so that week, even though you kind of have that week off as far as physical like exertion, your mental is through the roof. You're studying those plays and getting with the coaches and trying to figure out how you can hit the ground running on the first day of camp.
Absolutely. And then that kind of takes you right up to today, which is practice number 1.
Yep.
And obviously energy's high. Everybody's excited, you know, whatever. Defense has seen the plays like in that order, like 14 times, watched it on tape. So they know what's coming. I mean, basically, you know, I know a big deal today, just reading some guys on Twitter, like few interceptions today, whatever. But I would say that's pretty normal.
Pretty typical. Yeah.
Day one. The defense kind of knows what's coming. The offense doesn't have the counter moves in. Like,
and it's hard
running a stop route.
Right.
The defense knows you're running a stop route.
Right.
Like whatever.
And the hardest is blocking each other because you're not wearing pads and you're
and the
supposed
defense
to,
is supposed to go 2-step.
yeah,
like
supposed
but it
to,
never happens.
but it never happens. And
Offensive guys here, so
yeah, we are for sure. But that was always my least favorite part because I was like, I don't want to be in between. I either want to walk through it or go full torque
speed,
and hit them. So
and
that
I think
was always
most
the
people would be
hardest.
surprised at like what a non-padded practice looks like.
Oh yeah,
Like it's very physical.
it's
and
very
full,
intense.
It's
yeah,
full
there's some
speed and,
going up right now on the screen.
Yeah, and this is you get a tackling drill here. I'm sorry, that's actually
Special
I believe
teams?
that's Coach Collins'
Stick and stack,
stack drill.
Yeah.
Which has been done before. Coach Keene here working on the O-line, gaining ground on their first 2 steps and coming off the ball with great pad level. So, I there's some very, very basic things, but
Right.
still things that get worked on in the middle of the
Right,
season.
for sure. And the fundamentals is what we talk about as the foundation of
Absolutely
what we do. So when we're in the heat of the moment, that's what we fall back on. And
the plays are the plays, right?
right,
If you execute the fundamentals correctly, you're going to be able to do a lot of different plays.
absolutely.
But you don't want to invent a new play where you've got a new fundamental that
Right.
you've never worked
Yeah.
on. Generally doesn't work out very
It
well.
definitely it doesn't. But it is exciting. That first day is always, you get the first day of fall camp jitters, even as a 6-year senior.
No question, right?
But once you start going,
And the freshmen at this point are like completely lost.
oh yeah,
Like they have
you're trying to reel them in, and but it's fun to watch too. And I like how at the end of practice they always do the freshman on freshman and let them get some of their plays, because back in the day when I started, it was freshman practice and then there was a senior practice in the second half of the day,
which is still a decent way to do it.
Yeah,
because that way guys can kind of get that and be around and see what it's supposed to look like for a couple days.
right.
It's just hard now because the numbers, like there
Right.
really just aren't enough people.
Yeah, it was definitely a shit show though. It was. I remember being the quarterback and I thought I had all the plays dialed up, and then you're sending guys in motion and 3 people are running across the field, and it was just,
to me as a coach, the advantage is it's way easier to just stop everything.
right. That's true.
And make sure, like, guys, do we have any idea,
Yeah.
like, even what the snap count
Oh
is?
yeah, I remember.
No, I have no idea.
I remember Cole Ramsayer and Caden DeLuna. I was a quarterback at the time. They were my tight ends, and it was a climb concept, and it was supposed to be the boundary guy running the flat and the field guy running over the middle of the field. And I took my drop back, and they're both running right at each other. And
Screaming at DeLuna.
yeah. And I was like, I don't know which one to throw to. And it was, but those were the days. Those were super fun. But I like how they're doing it now as well, because it is
Absolutely.
cool to watch the standard
To me, I think it's not one's better than the other.
Yeah.
Or one's right or one's
Right.
wrong. It's just kind of, you have to figure out your numbers and
right.
how it makes sense. And for the coaches, like this way, you're on the field an extra half hour, but
Yeah.
you're not on the field an extra 2 hours.
Right. No doubt.
Because as we get into talking about the schedule of fall camp, that becomes a real thing. Like,
Yeah.
where are you manufacturing that time
Right,
out of?
for sure. And then I remember it was so fun because all the older guys were just watching, and someone makes a big play and they're going nuts. Like I still
Or somebody
think,
makes a really bad play and
they're
going
all
nuts.
laughing. Yeah. But I think one of my favorite memories of Boise State ever was our freshman fall camp and scrambling around, and Billy runs a post and just the play is completely broken. I just heave it as far as I could, and Billy mossed the guy in the end zone, and all the seniors are picking us up and carrying us around. That was the best feeling ever. And I know watching your guys go at it, they love it. And having plays like that is kind of the things that remember to fuel your confidence for the rest of the fall camp. But
again, if anybody's got any questions, please feel free
For
to
sure,
whatever they are. I mean, it might be on topic or off topic, but I think the other thing we talked about hitting tonight was just kind of what the fall camp schedule looks like.
yeah,
So
100%.
again, it's not like there's one practice, because there's no 2-a-days now.
Right. No 2
by
days.
NCAA rules, but it's not like there's one practice and oh, that's it. That's all we got.
Yeah.
You go home and call it a day.
Right.
So take us through that kind of.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I kind of go through both of what I experienced from the first couple years and then now. Yeah. But they both start very early, and you're there at 5 o'clock eating breakfast, and everyone's just kind of.
Now they did back it up a little bit.
They did back it up now.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the BRC at 5 in the morning, and people are just zombies walking around and eating breakfast and getting ready. Now it's a little later in the day, but you get in, you get ready. Everybody gets dressed for practice except their pads, and you do some rehab and activation, and then you go up for meetings. And so you're up in the morning for meetings, working through the install for that day with your coaches. And then you do another activation as a team, and then you're on the field for 2-hour practice. And it's interesting, fall camp, we're always on the grass field for the most part. And that's a big switch up because our whole life is on the blue.
No question, but it's a little cooler, a little bit better on the body.
It definitely is.
So
that's a big switch up. And so you're on the grass, and it's fun just walking across the parking lot to get out there and
takes a minute.
It does.
Warm up a little bit.
2-hour practice, and then you go in and you do a stretch, and that's when everybody starts cramping up. And but you stretch it out. Everybody cold tubs, and then you eat lunch, and you get a second to kind of relax. And I think now you have like an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer to decompress.
Yeah, and I think there's a mandatory like 4-hour window.
Yeah.
From the end of practice until you can have another meeting.
Yeah, because it used to be where everybody would just fall asleep in the locker room, and you would just see everybody would have crazy beds. People were sleeping on their shoulder pads, made a pillow for
guys like Danny Cantrell, who's getting married. This weekend, but would have his whole camping arrangement in there.
Oh yeah, and then one of the bowl presents from one of the games was like the blow up hammock, and everybody took advantage of that. But so now it is nice. You get to go home and kind of decompress and take a nap, and then you're right back at it. And it depends on the day, but sometimes we'll have Bronco Olympic events where they draft teams. The coaches, they'll go out to McCall and they'll do their retreat, and then they'll draft teams for the guys, and we'll do different games like dodgeball or basketball, and home run derby is always fun. So there'll be some type of event where it gets competitive, and
talent shows
the best. See which guys can sing or not. But that's where guys gain respect too. I remember Matt Griffin, he was a walk-on wide receiver, kind of wasn't really doing much during fall camp as a freshman. And we had dodgeball, and he was on the older guys team, and he was the last person versus 5 guys. And somehow, some way he won. And I don't think he's stopped talking about it yet, but everybody loved him for it. And so people make their strides in all
David
forms and fashion.
The Bronco Olympics legend.
Oh yeah,
because he's never. I don't think his team ever lost.
That's insane.
When it came down to the talent show, he would, people know D-Mac out hosting halftime.
Oh yeah,
on TV, like whatever.
Right.
The guy can play musical instruments, sing, whatever.
It's hard to beat for sure.
Yeah.
But it is funny to see how creative guys get. But yeah. So there's a lot of memories, and that's kind of where that brotherhood and bonding for the season kind of takes place. And
because you guys are together from whatever it is, 5 or 6 in the morning until at least 10 at night.
Right. At least, yeah.
And then, you're trying like hell to go to sleep at that point.
Taking melatonin, you're just thinking of every play.
Wake up and do it all over again.
Yeah. But so I guess from there, after the special team stuff we do together, then we'll go and do more meetings.
Yep.
And then usually it's a
walkthrough
on the blue of kind of what you did wrong that day, what we could fix, and kind of the stuff we're going over for the next day. And then
a team meeting to finish.
Yeah, team meeting, dinner, and then you're out. But it is your
snack. Dinner was earlier, right?
Dinner,
you got to feed you one more time.
Yeah, snack. Because
in all seriousness, I mean, you're on your feet
for sure.
8 hours a day, running around, burning energy.
Right.
You got to have calories, or you're losing. Wow. So
Great
the question,
question.
like, how many people does it take to run a practice? And in terms of coaches, assistants, so you've got your 10 full-time coaches, head coach, 4 GAs. Now it's kind of unlimited analysts that can also coach. But, I think conservatively to think like probably 3 on each side of the ball would be fair. So what are we at? Like 17 people there, 21 people there. And so 2 GAs each side get us 21. But that doesn't include at all the equipment staff and the trainers. And those guys they're the studs.
Unsung heroes.
Yeah,
They have everything set up
because it doesn't work without them. And then you got the operations people. Like we got to make sure there's food. We got to make sure there's ice to go in the ice tubs. The video
trainers.
I'm saying conservatively, you're talking, I would say more like 70 people.
Yeah.
And that's conservative. Yeah. Even at a place like Boise State, Dale, shout out to Dale, his 28th consecutive year today.
Crazy. Love you, Dale.
Muley. So, but he's awesome. That guy takes more pride in what's going on than anybody. But Dale's staff's probably 20 people.
20,
at least, I would guess. And it's funny because you would think like, well, with one, like, they cover for each other and whatever, but without those guys, it doesn't work.
It really doesn't.
You're talking about wasting time moving stuff, getting stuff set
They're referees.
Yeah, laundry. Those guys are, you said unsung heroes. They're there at 10 o'clock at night washing the stuff that guys walk through so they have it the next morning.
And they're some of the best people too. Like,
absolutely.
A lot of the times they're right in the locker room where their lair is, and we'll go back and chill back there and watch TV and football games. And man, they're some of the best guys. And a lot of them go to college with us, and so we're friends with a bunch of them. And those
a
relationships,
bunch of those guys have moved on into the kind of coaching or operations part of.
Like Colin is Keaton, in the weight room now. Keaton's doing operations. So those guys are studs. And like Coach Ridge said, they make everything go.
So we're talking about the equipment guys with 20 people, but the trainers probably have another 20.
For sure.
And you think like how long it takes to get that stuff ironed out. Those guys, they're in there. So if the players start rolling in at 5:30, they're in there at 5, making sure everybody's ready, organized. So they get guys taped and
they're dialed too. On the field. Like, I was a sweater, so I was constantly needed water. I think I had a person assigned to me to just follow me with the water bottle because it was every 5 seconds I was trying to find someone to give me some water.
First coach and first player too, right?
So the question was who's the first coach and the first player to arrive every day? There was a couple guys. I know that I took pride on that. The best feeling in the world for me was to be in the locker room when all the lights were off.
Was no question.
And
Avery Williams.
Avery would sleep there. I think he slept at the facility a couple times. Kala definitely. DJ was there early. He was always stretching. There's a bunch of guys that I can't think off the top of my head.
I always knew Riley
there was a lot of guys.
Coached Riley, but I think Avery
Avery for sure.
I think he might have rolled in at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah, he was different.
Started stretching or whatever.
No doubt. No doubt.
Coaches, I would say that was kind of always a little bit fluid. There were always, because you might have something to do, somebody else might have something to do. The head coaches might be in there first. It just, I always felt like that was a little bit fluid.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you were racing to be the first guy. Well, I take that back. Frank Miley might have been the first guy all the time because he lifted at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it a lot of times slept in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Frank.
Yeah.
But in terms of like in the office, like not working out, I feel like that was that was fluid.
Yeah. The question was, does Matt Lauder, the GOAT, have the hands to put up big yards this year? And I think absolutely.
No doubt.
I mean, he's always been a stud, and I've hung out with him a lot throughout this summer, and he is dialed.
Yeah.
He dialed in his nutrition. Billy Bowens was living with him, and he said Matt just goes to sleep at 8:30, and so
he's definitely
he's dialed.
He's
So-
really matured.
Oh,
And
for sure.
yeah, I saw Matt. We did an event a couple weeks ago together, and he is, he's gonna. The problem with being a tight end, and Riley could tell you, John Bates could tell you, Jake Rowe, Alec Danes, I mean, whoever, is sometimes your opportunities get limited because you're too good at something else,
Right.
or you're needed somewhere else,
For sure.
or whatever. And so are there plays where the tight end is absolutely the number one choice? Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those fewer than where one of the receivers is the absolute choice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I don't know what Matt's numbers are going to look like, but I know he's going to have a huge year.
Absolutely.
And what that looks like, everybody's very focused on the stat package for the tight ends, which is catches and yards, right?
Right.
But yeah. But I would tell you this, John Bates was here a couple months ago, and you talk about a guy that like just owns what he's doing.
Right.
He's probably, if not the best, one of the best blocking tight ends in the NFL.
100%.
And he knows it. Washington knows it. Like everybody that thinks like, they get a guy that catch more balls. Well, I'm sure they could.
Right.
But they can't get a guy that can block Joey Bosa.
Yeah,
one-on-one.
right. Yeah. And that's
again,
GNT 2,000 yards.
Yeah, is that doable? Absolutely.
That'll hurt Matt's stats.
Yeah. And where's Breezy fit in there?
Right.
What are the scores of the games?
Right.
I mean, is he good enough to have 2,000 yards? Without a doubt.
For sure.
But, if they're up by 40, he's probably not getting many touches.
Right. No doubt. Yeah, it's definitely all like stats are important, but like it's all situational.
It's funny because everybody, I think, and especially in the days of fantasy football, is very worried about that.
Right. Definitely.
Except for in that locker room.
I agree.
And I think even in NFL locker rooms, like that's a concern.
Yeah.
But I can tell you in the Boise State locker room, if Ashton runs for 980 yards and averages 7.5 yards a carry,
right,
and Boise State finishes 14-0 and in the playoffs, like he's good
for sure.
And
everyone buys in. Like I remember, there's been times the tight ends make jokes. They're like, "I'm not even going to wear my gloves to this game. I'm just going to be blocking." And it starts as a funny joke, but then everyone's bought into it. Like we would all. Austin Terry was one of the funniest. He was like, "I know my role, and I'm just going to run across the field and hit the guy on the other side." And it was always hilarious. But when that moment came, it was that unselfishness and that willing to do whatever it takes to win the game that really put us over and had everybody flow as a team to win games.
And so I think there are a few statistics like you're looking at that you should care about. Like obviously wins and loss, right?
Yeah.
Turnovers. It's a huge deal. Your efficiency in the red zone, your third down efficiency. I mean, those are the kind of things as coaches we're always looking at, and that's offense and defense.
Right.
And then, from your player perspective, like you want to see the running backs, their yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. The quarterbacks completion percentage. Receivers are probably like, yards per catch or yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things, you're looking at to see if you're having a great season or not. It's not total yards or total touchdowns or total points, because the reality of it is a lot of that can be spread around. Now, at the end of the day, do I think Ashton's probably going to have 1,500 yards plus. Like, yeah, I do, and score a bunch of touchdowns.
Right.
But I assume the quarterbacks are going to complete close to 70% of the passes.
Definitely.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Larry and Sue want to know about getting ready for the humidity down in the
Oh yeah.
I'll let Riley handle that.
So
they'll be all right.
The question is how are they going to get ready to handle the humidity down for Georgia Southern? And that's always one of my favorite things because we always play the teams down south during August, September, where it's peak humidity for sure. And so we have something called infernos where the night before we'll have 1 or 2 practices and that week leading up to the game.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can.
Yeah. So we'll lock down the whole entire indoor and they'll completely cut all air conditioning off. I swear there's heaters in there and they turn the heaters on and they water the whole entire field continuously. Yep. And so the moment you step in the morning, first of all, you walk through and they have a hose spraying you down off the bat. And when you walk through those doors, it hits you. And I lived in it for my whole life.
No
and
question.
I can tell you that it's
even
pretty
as
spot
coaches,
on.
like we used to wear long sleeves in there.
Yeah.
And like
And
whatever. I mean, because you'd be surprised. I mean, it affects you, right?
For sure. Sure.
Yeah. I think that's gone on since we played at Georgia in like 2005.
Yeah.
And
it does. I'll say 100%.
You know what you're getting. And hey, let's be honest. It's going to be 108 here this weekend. I'm not saying that the humidity is the same, but 108's hot.
It's hot. It's hot. But like to your point, it's a different hot.
It is.
And I think even when we go out there, it's brutal. But I think being able to experience it once before you get out there prepares you for it, and it doesn't slap you in the face like it does that first practice.
And the conditioning part, going back to summer, whether it was Coach Pitt, Kagi, I'm missing whoever it's been. Like Ben, like
Hilgard,
yeah. I mean, those guys
They
do
do
a
a great
tremendous
job.
job all summer getting you ready for that. And I think that's one of those things, like you fall back to that too, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, we've been through hard times. Like, we're good.
For sure.
We do a great job, I think, with the nutrition and hydration
for sure.
leading up to that. I mean, you're a Florida guy, right? We're playing Florida State.
Yeah.
Like in the second quarter or second half, our guys are rolling around fine. Their guys are dying of cramps.
For sure. Yeah. Shout out Chad Dixon. He's one of my friends from Florida, so he knows about the humidity and he knows about that game as well. And like I know my parents, they were like ready to leave at halftime. They were like, this is too hot, and we were just getting started. Yeah. And so that's what kind of fires me up, and it's the separation and the preparation. Absolutely. And it's pretty cool that we have that.
But, I give a ton of credit to all the to the strength coaches.
Definitely, 100%.
Building that up over the summer, and then
we go out a day before usually.
Go a day early, which helps, and get a little run around. So you kind of walk.
Yeah,
it's not like a taxing deal or whatever.
But I remember when we played Troy, the O lineman, it was like a walkthrough, and their shorts were like they jumped in the pool.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Absolutely,
absolutely.
But, yeah. I think all that stuff helps tremendously.
For sure.
And I think, I would just say the proof's in the pudding. It would be the best thing I'd say. I mean,
definitely.
I don't think we lost to Georgia the very first time that we started the Inferno deal, but that had way more to do with turnovers than it did not being ready to play.
First practice, no pads. How do you kind of build up full pads and stuff?
So the NCAA rules question was about first practice, no pads. So you have to go 2 practices, no pads, then take a day off. So they'll be off on Friday with a lifting and walkthroughs and meetings and all that, not just a day off.
Yeah, never.
Sometimes those can be worse. Right?
Yeah, right.
And then you have to do 2 more shoulder pads only, and helmets.
Yeah.
Obviously, helmets the entire time. And then your fifth practice can be full pads.
Yeah.
And it'll be full pads, and they'll be rocking a little bit. But
For sure.
it's technically a no tackle to the ground practice.
Yeah. Really until short yardage, right? It's kind of the first day of live.
So after day 5, they'll take another day off. And then day 6, we'll have a little short yardage.
That's fun.
Full tackle, and then 7 or 8 is probably the first scrimmage.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's what?
One-on-one drills and practices get chippy.
Oh, yeah. They said do one-on-one drills get chippy, and yes, they do. And the one-on-ones with the receivers, DBs, and the O-line, D-line, they get intense.
Running backs against the linebackers.
Oh, yeah. That was one of our favorites this past year.
It's always chippy.
It does, because no matter what, someone's going to talk about it in the locker room, and you have to wait a whole nother day to shut them up the next day. So it always gets intense.
As an offensive coach, the problem is there's no officials out there.
Yeah, right.
So you could sit out there and go like, "Hey, do you cover like that in a game?"
Right, for sure. But it's always good. You beat them one-on-one, and then you get to talk to them the whole rest of the day. So,
and in all seriousness, the harder it is in practice, the easier it is in a game.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And as a tight end, holding just doesn't get called very often.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
That's very true.
Whatever. So, don't get help.
Definitely.
Right?
And I'll say this past year, anytime I ran a route, I made sure Alexander Tubner was out there, and anytime he was out there, he made sure I was running the route, and that helped me
absolutely
extraordinarily. And it was the same for him. I mean, he did an amazing job in coverage this year, and I felt like I did much better running routes, especially a physical, strong guy like Alex Tubner. And so us going against each other on a daily basis, and also he figured out my moves and I figured out his moves, so it gave us a chance to work on some different stuff. So that stuff sets you apart, and just that constant competitiveness between guys, it builds you close, and it does make it really fun throughout practice.
No doubt.
Cutter's philosophy, how different is it for Camden? All that impact on backs.
I'll let Riley answer that. I mean,
yeah, philosophy-wise, I mean, they're all extremely amazing coaches, and they're all extremely professional. And while the philosophy changes between each person, it's all somewhat similar in how we're running our offense. The plays might be different. The names of the plays might be different, but they all kind of have the same mindset. And Boise State, we attack. And we don't only attack through the air, but we attack on the ground. And that's something that's really important to us. And so Coach Cutter, especially, it'll be interesting because now this will be his first year really being able to implement his full offense. Last time he came in, he tried to keep it similar to what we had learned throughout the rest of the season. So it will be interesting to see that, but he's a full-on
Well, the one thing I would
it's
say,
crazy.
Dirk came here in 1997, and he came from Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And when he left, Pete came as the offense coordinator. He came from Oregon.
Yeah.
And didn't change any of Dirk's terminology, nothing.
Yeah.
And that lasted until basically Pete being the head coach. And again, there's all sorts of, Robert Prince, Jonathan Smith, Hars, all that were coordinators under Pete. But, Pete was still around. Well, then Hars comes back as the head coach. Right. Back to the same stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And really the one change in terminology was probably Coach Plow.
Yep.
And it's really reverted back to
that same umbrella of offense. Yeah.
And even Coach Plow's plays were very, very similar.
A little more West Coast
terminology and
flavor,
a little bit
in there.
different way to get to him. But, with the exception of basically a year and a half or 2 years or whatever, it's really been the same since Dirk implemented it in 1997. So you're seeing, you see ebbs and flows and different ways of doing things, but, I don't, to your average fan, I don't imagine it's going to look a ton different.
Right.
Coach Cutter is obviously very aggressive.
Yeah.
Likes to throw it downfield. So, He's going to run the ball and throw it downfield.
For sure.
And not just like play action deep balls. I mean, but, 15-yard routes. And, it's going to be a fun year. Because they certainly can threaten people running the ball.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. Yeah, so the question was, how does the rest of the offense handle the quarterback battle? And honestly, that's probably one of the coolest things about football, in my opinion, especially kind of with the Talon and Mad Dog situation last year. But everybody backs whoever's on the field. And
absolutely. I think it's very unique here.
It is. And I think it is unique to this
place. It's not one camp or the other. It's like, hey, whoever's out here, like, we're going to do the best we can to make his job a little bit easier.
And they've gained the trust. Yep. And that's even the bowl game situation where they're like, who's going to be the quarterback, whether it's CJ or Colt, two guys that have never really played. Right? We're like, we don't care who's on the field because we trust them and we're going to back them no matter what. So it's the same situation. I mean, both guys are amazing people. I mean, obviously I know Mad Dog, but I've heard a lot of great things about Malachi and that the team loves him and he's been a field general. So whoever steps on the field, they're going to back him. And like you said, they're going to be the best they can be, but there's no camps and there's no split in the locker room.
Yeah,
it's just,
they want what's best for fans and whoever to talk about. But the reality of it is there's not one person that's not at practice that would have a better idea of who should be the starter than Dirk Cup.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Anybody else that's not watching every rep and understanding everything that's talked about in meetings and how they're doing it, like, I mean, everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, the guy making the decision is the guy with the best opinion.
I agree. And it's funny because, like, half the time last year, I wouldn't even really know who was in at quarterback. Like, there's such a high standard that everybody plays to that standard. And when they do, it doesn't matter. The only thing would be, I was like, all right, if Mad Dog's in, I got to kind of find him through the O-line. But other than that,
it was in, like, you got to be prepared to throw out the block.
So there's different situations for each guy, but for the most part, there's that standard of QB play here. And if you are going to be on that field, you're going to hit it, and that's just what we roll with.
No question.
For sure. I'd say one more question from a player's perspective. How throughout fall camp, because it's a grind all day, how do you in your life keep balance and also do that for the players as well so nobody gets burnt out?
There's I would say there's pretty much a month of no balance.
Yeah, right.
And
for sure.
You just kind of deal with it. And I would say this, with the new rules in college football, that has helped a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially when your kids are younger, and you obviously did not know my kids when they were younger. But you know, they used to come around, they maybe show up right after practice.
Right.
Used to seeing a lot of the coaches' kids run around for a minute.
Yeah.
You know, you try and get 10 or 15 minutes. When they're older, they kind of got their own things going. I mean, fortunately, my son, I got to see him a lot.
No doubt.
But you know, I think it's hard, and you just got to understand at some point, like, hey, we got a month here, we got to grind through it. But with the rules the way they are now, I think that's helped a little bit.
Yeah.
And especially even now, I believe August is a dead period in recruiting, so you still make phone calls and stuff. But you know, we used to have like unofficial visits.
Oh,
so you walk off the field and spend time with the guy.
Right.
Now at least they can't do that. So you might be getting on a FaceTime with the guy or something like that.
For
but
sure.
I do think that's a little bit better. The flip side is camp was a little bit shorter back then. So maybe it was 3 weeks instead of 4.5.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard, and you try and get out of there, like, you know, at a decent hour. So really not so much that you spend time with your family, but so you can go home, get some rest,
get some sleep, right,
and come back energized the next morning. And the reality of it is it doesn't matter. I mean, you got to come back with great energy the next morning because you expect it from the players, so you better be able to give it yourself.
For sure.
You know, you would be better, but I know the guys I was coaching, I felt like always had great energy, and I hope I reciprocated.
Absolutely.
And, you might be having a tough morning or
Yeah.
things didn't go well. Well, at 6:30 when the position meeting started, like that shit doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
And if you need someone
put
to
it behind you and
Yeah, right.
move on.
And if you need some extra motivation, you look for Winston.
Absolutely.
And Winston
No
will
question.
bring it, and he'll get your mind right
No
for
doubt.
sure.
Final questions from Roy. Let's go through Coach Danielson's mind. First one.
Just knowing how Spencer is, my best guess would be, what can I do to better serve my players, my coaches, whatever.
Yeah.
Did I bring enough energy? Did I do everything I could today? And I hope, for his sake, he can occasionally put that aside.
Right.
Because I have no doubt that he is doing everything he can
For
to support everybody and provide what's necessary. I'm sure he's as he's looking at the film, like analyzing, did all the stuff we did over the summer, did that translate to today?
Yeah.
And not everything's gonna be perfect on day one. Like I said, they threw some picks today, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's been every fall camp I've ever been to.
Ever.
I've never seen the offense just dominate day one.
Yeah.
It's never happened.
Right.
Or day two.
Yeah.
Or day three. So, probably tomorrow and maybe on day three, the offense will hit a couple long balls for touchdowns, whatever. But that would be my guess what Spence is thinking about. I'm sure he's thinking about how he can get better tomorrow. What can I do to motivate somebody that had a bad day? How can I support that guy and make him better? How do I keep somebody that had a great day from – how do I help them do it again tomorrow?
Yep.
I was going to say, like, how do I keep them from getting too excited about themselves? But that's not him.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, no, you had a great day. Like,
yeah,
let's do it again tomorrow.
Right.
Even better. So he's one of the most positive people you'll meet. And I think he's just on a mission to really, he talks about it all the time, serve, right?
Yeah.
And how can I serve all these people that are counting on me? And I just hope the one thing I would say, I hope he doesn't put so much on himself that it starts weighing him down.
Yeah.
Because he's phenomenal.
Yep. I couldn't said it any better than that. But yeah, we appreciate you guys watching and all your questions too. That means the world to us, and we love to know what you guys are thinking.
We are trying to roll on Tuesdays from here on out.
Tuesdays at 8:00, and we'll either be online or try to make it back.
If you got
out
a business
to the
you want us to show up at, hey,
yeah,
let BJ know. Maybe we'll be doing one from I don't know, the middle of Broadway or something.
Yeah, right. No, but as always, it's been a pleasure to be able to talk to you guys, and continue to hit us up on Twitter if you have any topics you want to hear from us about. But
absolutely.
But yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. Anything, but it's fun to know the football's right around the corner. Like you said,
getting fired up.
Football tomorrow night.
Yeah,
tomorrow night, Coach Strauss. For all you longtime Bronco fans, great O-line coach here. That's one thing we'll probably talk about in the future here. But obviously one of the trademarks of Boise State O-line. Well, you start thinking about all these guys that are out there that have coached O-line for Boise State. What they're doing now, Chris Strasser with the Houston Texans, Sean Kugler, longtime NFL coach. My man Scooter Huff, opening it up with the Seahawks right now. So excited about all that. And,
absolutely.
That's something we can probably get into a little bit in the future.
100%. Yes, sir. Appreciate you guys. And as always, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
See you guys next time.
It's the fall kickoff sale at Lithia Ford of Boise. It's the best time to trade in and trade up to a new Ford truck or SUV with the room to haul your payload or playload. Visit Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.